Welcome to the deep dive. Ready to dive into something fascinating?
Always.
Okay, good. We've got this piece of audio. It's a conversation.
Oh, intriguing. Who's talking?
Two people. We'll call them Yo Soy and David.
Okay. I like it. Yo Soy and David. What's the subject? What are they talking about?
Honestly, we have no clue who these people are. No background info. Nothing. But the conversation. That's why we're here.
The mystery deepens. I'm hooked already. What's so captivating about it?
It's full of these really thought-provoking ideas about life, change, big picture stuff.
Right, right. And the future, you said.
Oh, yeah. Lots about the future.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the vibe? Like, is it a casual conversation or is it more...
It's wild. It's like they're incredibly connected personally, but then they're talking about these really abstract, almost philosophical concepts.
It's like overhearing a therapy session or something.
But kind of,
Yeah.
except it feels much bigger than that, like we're getting a glimpse into a whole different way of seeing the world.
Wow. Okay, so how do we even begin to unpack this? Where does the conversation start?
So it sounds like it takes place right after some big event in Paris ended.
Paris. Fancy. What kind of event are we talking about?
They don't really
Yeah.
say. But Yosoi does mention that it won't happen again for another 76 years.
76 years. Wow. That's significant. Okay, so it's a big deal, whatever it is. What are their feelings about it being over?
There's a lot of sadness, a bit of nostalgia, like they're both processing this ending.
Ah, I can relate to that. Endings are tough, even the good ones, right?
Definitely. And it's interesting how they each seem to be dealing with it in their own way.
Oh, how so?
Well, Yosoi seems to have this very specific way of approaching these complicated emotions. There's this phrase they keep repeating, suéltalo, David. Suelta esos sentimientos.
Let it go. Interesting. It seems a little,
A little blunt.
well, yeah, like, shouldn't we process our feelings instead of just letting them go?
That's what's interesting. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about not clinging to them. Yosoi even says, siéntelo si quieres, pero déjalo pasar.
Feel it if you want, but let it pass. Okay, so it's more nuanced than just stuff it down. It's about acknowledging the feeling, experiencing it, but then letting it move through you without holding on.
Yeah, exactly. And it made me think, like, why are we so afraid to just feel things fully and let them go?
It's true. We often try to avoid uncomfortable feelings instead of just, like, riding the wave.
Right. Like surfing. You can't control the wave, but you can learn to ride it.
I like that analogy. So it's about finding that balance between acknowledging the emotion, but not letting it totally sweep you away.
And that seems to be a key part of what Yosoi is trying to teach David.
Makes sense. But it
Yeah.
seems like it goes even deeper than just dealing with sadness after this event, right?
Yeah, way deeper. Because this idea of letting go, it ties into this bigger concept that Yosoi keeps coming back to, the human experience.
The human experience. Okay, now we're getting philosophical. What does that even mean in this context?
Right. Well, Yosoi talks about it in the context of evolving beyond our human limitations.
Evolving beyond human limitations. So, like, transcendence.
Yeah, it definitely has that vibe. But the thing is, even though they're talking about moving beyond our human limitations, they simultaneously emphasize how important, how beautiful this human experience is.
That's interesting. So they're not saying that being human is bad or that we need to escape it.
No, not at all. It's more like being human is just one chapter in a much larger story. But it's a chapter filled with experiences that shape us, that matter.
It's like saying, yeah, this human experience can be messy and confusing, but it's also incredibly precious.
Exactly. And that makes you wonder, what does it even mean to have a human experience? Especially if we're talking about transcending our current understanding of what humans are.
Right. It's like, are we still human if we go beyond our perceived limitations? What does that even look like?
Those are some big questions.
Yeah.
And honestly, we don't get any definitive answers in this part of the conversation, but it sure does make you think.
It definitely sparks your curiosity, that's for sure. So we've got these feelings of sadness, this idea of letting go, and now this concept of the human experience. Where do we go from here? What else is happening in this conversation?
Well, it seems like David is about to step into a whole new chapter himself, one that's full of rapid changes and completely new experiences.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about this event in Paris ending, it's like his whole life is shifting.
It does seem that way.
Mm-hmm.
And with all this change swirling around, trust becomes a big theme in Yosoi's message.
Trust. As in, like, trusting his gut, trusting the universe.
All of that. Yosoi keeps emphasizing trust, openness, and allowing things to unfold naturally.
It's like they're saying, hey, David, stop trying to control everything. Surrender to the process and trust that something bigger is guiding you.
Yes. And Yo Soy actually says something really interesting. They say, eso hace que todos los cambios que están ocurriendo a gran velocidad, a super gran velocidad, puede ocurrir sin fuerza, sin dificultades, sin romper nada.
Whoa, okay, break that down for me.
Basically, they're saying that when we resist change, we create friction. It's a struggle.
Right, I've been there.
But when we accept it, we allow for a smoother, more natural transformation. It's like instead of swimming upstream, we're riding the current.
I like that. It's like that saying, what you resist persists. The more we fight against change, the harder it becomes.
Exactly. But here's the thing. How can someone actually live that way? Like, how do you embrace change, especially massive life changes,
Yeah.
and make it feel effortless?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's interesting because Yo Soy seems to link this idea of effortless transformation to something much grander, the evolution of the species.
Okay, now we're talking the evolution of the species. How does that even come up?
Well, Yo Soy suggests that David's personal journey, his willingness to embrace these changes, is somehow connected to the evolution of humanity as a whole.
Wow. So they're suggesting that one person's choices, one person's willingness to change, can actually impact the entire human species.
It seems like it. And I don't know about you, but that's kind of a mind-blowing concept.
It really is. But how does that even work? What could that possibly look like on a larger scale? I mean, are they suggesting that David is like some kind of evolutionary pioneer paving the way for the rest of humanity?
That's a really interesting question. And while they don't give us all the answers, I think it's definitely something to consider.
It is. Like they're suggesting that there's this ripple effect, that one person choosing openness, choosing trust, choosing to evolve can create these waves of change that spread outwards.
It's a powerful image for sure. And it makes you wonder, what if that's actually how change happens on a global scale? What if it starts with individuals choosing a different way of being?
It's a lot to process. But I love how this conversation is pushing us to think outside the box, to consider possibilities we might never have imagined before.
Me too. It's like they're giving us a glimpse into a future where anything is possible. And that's incredibly exciting.
But also a little daunting, right? Because if change really does start at the individual level, then it begs the question, what choices are we making in our own lives?
That's a great question, and it's something I think we should all be asking ourselves. Because if David's journey is any indication, the choices we make today could have a much bigger impact than we realize.
Absolutely. So it's not just about passively observing these ideas, it's about actively engaging with them, reflecting on our own lives, and maybe even making some changes of our own. But that's a conversation for another time.
It really does, because it's like, okay, David's about to go through all these changes, right? But he's not alone.
True. Yo Soy is definitely a guide for him in all this, like a mentor.
Totally.
Yeah.
And their presence is so strong in this conversation. They're always there, offering encouragement, guidance. It's actually kind of heartwarming.
Right. Like imagine going through a massive life change, and you've got this person who's like, I got you. You've got this.
Yeah, it's like having a co-pilot during a really intense storm, you know? You need that extra reassurance.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Especially with how massive these changes sound. Yo Soy even says, Yo estoy en el mando de todo mi precioso David.
I'm at the helm of everything, my precious David. Wow. So it's more than just being a supportive friend, right? It's like this deep, almost spiritual connection.
It's like they're two parts of a whole working together to achieve something incredible.
Exactly. And this connection between them, this harmonious back and forth, it seems to be fueling their transformation.
It's like their connection is amplifying everything, making it all even more powerful.
Exactly. And you know what's fascinating is that amidst all these complex ideas about evolution and change and the human experience, there's also this really simple message at the core of what Yo Soy is saying.
It's true. What is that core message, if you had to sum it up?
Trust, openness, allowing, remembering who you truly are.
It's like they're saying, hey, life is going to happen. Stuff's going to change.
Yeah.
But if you can just trust the process and be open to what unfolds, you'll find your way.
Exactly. And you know what I find so interesting? Those principles can apply to anyone, no matter who you are or what you believe.
It's true. Whether you consider yourself a spiritual person or not, there's still so much wisdom in those ideas.
Totally. Because at the end of the day, don't we all want to navigate life's changes with a little more grace and ease?
It's about realizing we have a choice, right? We don't have to be victims of circumstance. We can choose how we respond.
Exactly. We have agency. And that's such an empowering reminder. We can choose curiosity over fear, acceptance over resistance, We have that power within us.
It's like instead of seeing life as this battle, we can approach it as a dance.
I love that analogy. It's about finding the rhythm, surrendering to the flow.
And there's this sense of joy that comes through when you embrace that mindset, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And you know what else? There's a lot of joy in Yosoi's voice in this conversation, even when they're discussing these really deep topics.
Now that you mention it, yeah. It's like they're really enjoying this process of transformation with David,
It's like they're on this incredible adventure together.
which makes you wonder about their relationships.
Right.
That
It's
is-
clearly more than just teacher and student.
Right. There's a real tenderness in their interactions.
It's like listening to a love story unfold, but a love that goes beyond any kind of label or definition.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize that love, in its purest form, has this incredible power to transform us.
Absolutely. It can inspire us to grow, to evolve, to become the best versions of ourselves.
And maybe that's the ultimate message here. What's
Yeah.
possible when we approach life and our relationships with that same level of love and acceptance?
What if we could face our own journeys with that same kind of joy and support? Those are powerful questions. And I think they lead us perfectly into the final part of Yosoi and David's conversation, because it challenges us to consider the possibilities that exist within our own lives.
It's like they're showing us a different way of being in the world, you know?
A different way of being. Yeah, I like that. It's like they're expanding our definition of what's possible.
And not just in some abstract, theoretical way. It feels very real, very grounded.
Right. It makes you wonder, what if we're capable of so much more than we realize? What if this kind of transformation is within reach for all of us?
What if? That's the question this audio keeps bringing up for me. It sparks this sense of wonder, this curiosity about what else is out there.
That's what's so powerful about it. It doesn't give us all the answers, but it opens up these new possibilities.
Exactly. And that sense of possibility, that's what I think is so important, especially in today's world where it's easy to get bogged down in negativity and limitations.
It's a good reminder that there's always more to discover, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
It's about embracing the mystery, wouldn't you say? Instead of being afraid of the unknown, we can approach it with a sense of adventure.
Absolutely. Like, what if instead of clinging to what we think we know, we approached life with more curiosity, more openness to new experiences?
It's like that childlike sense of wonder we often lose as we get older. That willingness to believe in magic, to see the world with fresh eyes.
And that's how we grow, right? By constantly learning, evolving, expanding our understanding of what's possible.
It's a lifelong journey. And this conversation, this deep dive into Yosoi and David's world, it's just one stop along the way.
One stop on a much larger adventure.
Exactly. So, to our listener, if you're out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep diving deeper into the mysteries of life. You never know what you might discover.